Welcome to Management of Organizations, Chapter 7, Operations Management. This chapter is about producing goods and/or services, how we can classify the operation processes and make a distinction between service operations from goods production. But first, let's have a look at an operations manager. An operations manager is responsible for the whole operations process or the production process, is responsible for reliable delivery of goods and services for the purpose of maximization of customer satisfaction and productivity. The operations manager's functions are planning, organizing, directing and controlling the whole operations process. Now, the operations process is the set of methods and technologies which are used to produce goods and services. In here we see a picture of an operations manager responsible for inputs, transformation activities and outputs. Let's have a closer look at the transformation process. In a transformation process, raw material and information on the customer's needs and wants, next to machine inputs and worker capabilities or competencies, are put together in one process in which the raw material is converted or transformed into an output. This could be a finished good or it could be a service or both. The nature of the operations process is either analytic or synthetic. Let's have a closer look at the analytic process or analytic nature. In an analytic nature of operations or production process, raw material is broken down into several different components. Like in this example, crude oil is transformed by the refinery into, for example, LPG, gasoline, jet fuel, etc. The synthetic nature of an operation process converts different sorts of raw material into one finished product. Like in this example, grain, eggs and milk are put together to make a dough which is being converted by the oven into bread. Worldwide, the sectors of production and services are changing. As we can see from this figure, Germany and the United States are mainly producers of services. China, on the other hand, is mainly our production facility for over the whole world. Trends in production and operations management therefore are global competition, supply chain management, a continuously changing in processes and re-engineering to increase effectivity and efficiency, increase quality, so total quality management is important. Lean manufacturing, which means to produce at the lowest cost price and be as effective as possible. Workers' involvement, they have a say in their work environment more and more. And cycle time reduction. We want to be able to give our customers the products at the right time whenever they want it. Now, this movie, short video, shows the lean production of an aircraft manufacturing. Let's have a quick look at it. We will not watch it, but just have a glance at it, and maybe you can watch it at home. This video shows to you how the 737 is assembled by the ways of lean manufacturing. All the different spare parts and all the different equipment is staged at the time and point of use. So in this picture you can see how the aircrafts run along a line, and each time whenever something is needed, as in this case the parts, equipment and kits are stayed at the moment it is needed in the production. Okay, let's move on. Have a look at it at home. How can we define goods and services? Now, we all know goods or products are tangible items, and they need to satisfy a human want or need. A service is actually a valuable action to satisfy a human want or need. It's always intangible. We can't touch it. But we'll have a look at McDonald's. Is it a goods producer, or is it a service producer, or maybe both? The difference between goods and service operations are that service operations are activities that are non-physical and intangible. Goods operations are activities producing tangible products, like for example radios, newspaper, buses and textbooks. It could be best described by these four elements: a focus on performance, a focus on service characteristics, a focus on the customer-server link, and a focus on quality considerations. The focus on service characteristics are that the service characteristics are not tangible, customized, like the example next to this, the hairdresser, and they are not storable. The service operations acknowledge the customer as a part of the process. The quality considerations are in both cases, in product production or in services, are highly subjective, because we use different criteria to judge the product or to judge performance. Now, important in quality is of course utility. Utility is defined as a product or service ability to satisfy a human want or need, and we distinguish three types of utility: form, time and place. Form utility is connected to the conversion of raw material and human skills into the finished goods. So it's how people want them. Time utility is related to the moment customers do want the product or the service, and place utility is where people want them. Now let's have a look at an example. This is Coca-Cola. Coca-Cola's mission is to refresh the world, to inspire moments of optimism and happiness, and to create value and make a difference. Now let's have a look at how Coca-Cola transforms utility into this form utility. In this case, it shaped different sizes of bottles and cans, so form utility is the visible shape. Place utility is where you can get a Coke, maybe in a bar, or by these cooler displays which are placed everywhere, in schools, at railway stations, wherever anybody wants a Coke. And of course time. Coca-Cola once defined its mission as to be within an arm's reach. Now, as you can see here, a desert, and you really want a Coke. The difference in operations process is related to a difference in a make-to-order operation or a make-to-stock operation. A make-to-order operation is a custom-made production process. As you can see from producing this wedding dress, it's a one-time of a kind activity. Now, a make-to-stock operation, this is a process in which standardized products are produced for mass consumption, like, for example, Levi's trousers are made and standardized for mass consumption. In the service process, we make a difference between low and high contact service systems. A low contact service system is the system where the customer doesn't necessarily need to be part of the process, like your mail is delivered when you're not at home, for example. The transport systems, buses, trains, airplanes, whatever you can think of, is a high contact service. The hairdresser is a high contact service. As a customer, you are part of the operations process. So in the situation of customization, a high contact service system is more important to the customer than a low contact service system. So to recap, an operation process is the set of methods and technologies to produce goods and services, which are either tangible or intangible, storable or not storable, utile, and adapted to the needs and wants of customers. Now let's move on to the next section about capacity planning, really important to the operations manager. Let's have a look at the factors that are involved in production planning. But first, strategy, of course, is the driver of operations. After deciding upon the strategy, plans are developed. Now, Toyota and FedEx have formulated strategies for attracting customers. In the case of Toyota, it's quality, and in the case of FedEx, it's dependability. So what does the company do to implement its strategy? For Toyota, it means a focus on reliability to meet and exceed expectation. In the case of FedEx, it's about to be in time and fast to deliver the parcels. So when they determine on their operations, Toyota wants to have high quality standards, for example, also for their suppliers, or they need just-in-time materials flown into the organization so that they can produce in a lean manufacturing way. FedEx is focusing on dependability because they want the customers to believe that they are in time and fast with the deliverance of parcels and packages. So they use electronic systems and a scan and track system in order to give the customers an idea of how fast they are and when the package is going to be delivered, to gain trust. So operations are planned, and they start with gathering facts and figures to analyze, then develop long-term goals and strategies, and determine upon a tactical plan, and these plans are operationalized in activities. Last but not least, finally, we have to assess and evaluate performance. So that's the control function. Now let's have a look at the factors that are considered in operations planning. First of all, capacity. Capacity can be too low or can be too high. Next to capacity, location is important. Where do you want your organization to be located? Close to the customer, or maybe somewhere where it's cheap and you don't necessarily need to be close to the customer. Then you have to think about your layout, the layout within your company, how your assembly line is assembled, or how customers, for example in H&M, have to walk through the store to see every clothing you have. Next to the layout question is of course quality. Quality is connected to performance and consistency. A lot of companies want to have a standard product or a standard service, so that's important for them. Finally, methods. We use flow charts in order to decide upon the steps customers are going to make in order to get their product. So our operations planning starts with budgeting, and the first item in the budget is what we call the sales budget. To know how much we want to produce is based upon the amount of products we probably will sell. So a forecast of sales is important in the production budget. The production budget defines how much raw material maybe should be purchased, how much labor is going to be used, and how much machines, electronics, whatever is needed, that must be assessed in order to produce finally the finished product. And that is altogether, these three factors of production come into what we call the cost of sold budget. Next to the costs of goods sold, a company makes also expenses on selling and marketing these products all together in order to maybe forecast an income statement, forecast a profit in future. So all these different budgets are called the master budget and is the basis for planning operations. In scheduling, we've got 4 types of operation schedules: the master production schedule, detailed schedules, staff and project schedules. The master project, what is produced and when. Details, what is going to a detailed schedule about assigning per workstation what they should do. A staff schedule, working time per worker within the production. And finally, project schedules like, for example, Gantt and PERT. Now, what to plan? Again, capacity. The capacity usually is planned under normal conditions. So how much products are we going to usually produce within normal situations? But sometimes situations differ. Seasonal changes could happen. So we have to take into our capacity planning also that part which we call a reserve capacity planning. The location should be planned. That affects production costs. To be close at the customer or not affects production costs. The layout, the physical arrangement of all the production activities should be thought about. And finally, quality should be taken into account. The characteristics a company wants the products to have and whether they satisfy the needs and wants of the customers. So capacity, too much in this case or too little? Location, well, could be for a low contact service not in the neighborhood of a customer, but for high contact services, these locations should be placed within the environment and close to the customer. The layout planning will make a difference between product layout and process layout. A product layout is a fixed sequence of steps. It's a assembly line, like this example. The line is fixed and a lot of steps in a sequence are performed. Or a process layout, which is a grouping together of equipment according to a particular function. In this case, we are looking at the ground service for aircrafts. Quality is planned according to dependability, consistency, promise what you deliver, and reasonable pricing connected to the quality. So that's what Toyota does. And they use lean management, which is also Kaizen, which means change and good. So a Toyota is improving their performance consistently. Now, a master production schedule is a plan for individual products to be produced and at each time period as production, staffing, inventory, etc. is used to manufacture a product. After planning how to reach the goal, an overview must be created when to do what. So a detailed production schedule with Gantt or PERT is used. Let's have a look at two techniques. The first one is the Gantt chart. It's a schedule which breaks down all production and activity steps into the time that needs to be performed and required to perform each step. So this is an example of a Gantt chart of a new office floor. And it starts, in this case, in A, getting an approval to remove the office floor, B, to remove the chairs and tables from the room, then the new tiles should be bought, the move of tables and chairs to the carpentry shop because they are going to be redesigned, remove of all old floor tiles, install new tiles, and rework tables and chairs, and finally return these tables and chairs to the classroom. And in this schedule you can see how much weeks it takes per step when the work is completed for finally in the end to have the whole office floor redesigned. The PERT chart is a evaluation of all the steps that need to be performed to finally produce an action. Now, in the PERT chart, we have a look at what we call the critical path. Let's have a look at an example. A critical path is, for example, in implementing a new IT system, that first you have to list all activities to complete the project. Secondly, calculate the duration in weeks. And thirdly, determine the non-critical tasks. Now, in this case, we've got several tasks from A to I, which starts with a requirement of analysis, system design, programming, telecom, hardware, installation, integration, system testing, training, handover, and go live. So then the project is finished. Now, the third column shows the duration working days, and 1 week is 5 days. So task A, the requirement analysis, takes 1 week, and the system design takes 15 days is 3 weeks. So we have decided how many weeks or days necessary are for the activities mentioned. Then the next step is to decide which activity has to go first. So the requirement analysis is the start. But system design needs a requirement analysis. After system analysis, we can start with programming. Telecom and hardware installation. These 3 items are a little bit together. And then, when we have programmed indeed, we can integrate and test the system, and then train the workers, and then hand over and go live. Let's have a look at the critical path. So we can see here the tasks grouped together. C, D, and E are more or less in the same situation, and the red arrows show you that this is the critical path. We need task C, which is programming. We need that one first to be able to go to task F. The whole project takes 75 days. So the critical path analysis is an analysis as the one in this example. To summarize, we have to plan, organize, direct, and control. Controlling starts with fixing the standards, measuring actual performances, compare, take action in changing things, and then follow up. So the control system is fixing standards, measuring performance, compare, take action, and follow up. So, operations control is the process of monitoring the production and comparing it with the results and the target set in order to improve and finally produce better products or services. Now let's have a look at the next section, how we can monitor and evaluate the control process. Finally, an operations manager needs to assess performance. So this part is about operations control. Operations control is the process of monitoring production performance by comparing results with plans and taking corrective action when needed. The analysis can be done by an analysis of the added value or looking into the supply chain of materials. This is related to transportation, warehousing, purchasing, supplier selection, and inventory control. When we've assessed the performance of operations, we can improve the process by training employees or implementing just-in-time production systems, or use material requirement planning so that we are on top of adding the materials at the right time when it is needed. And finally, quality control. But first, let's have a look at the value added analysis. This shows you a definition of an organization. In the center, you can see that this is a production unit within our society, because the company or the organization has a lot of stakeholders, like, for example, the supplying companies, partners maybe, associate companies like unions, shareholders, bank and insurance companies are all stakeholders. The customers are stakeholders, media companies, NGOs, also citizens living next to the companies, and government is a stakeholder. The value chain is the part which is highlighted right now. It's the whole process from the raw material to finally the end consumer, which maybe wastes some services. So in each step within these steps, the value is added. It starts with raw material is provided and is transported to the sub-suppliers, who select the raw material and will transport this again to a supplier within a country, for example. And this supplier will transport the raw material to the industry organization, in which the transformation process transforms the raw material into finished goods for the customers, and they are end consumers. So the green arrows show to you the B2C market, business to consumer market. The red arrows show to you the B2B markets, the businesses to business or the company to company market, C2C markets, whatever you want to call it. So the green part is the value chain. The supply chain is the part between the providers of providers of raw material via suppliers, which are moving their products to the industry to convert it into finished products. So an example of a supply chain is, in this case, the supply chain for baked goods. Have a look at it. This is the farmer, farms grain, is going to transport it to the flour mill, and then in the baking company, the breads are baked. Paper is needed to package the bread, and then the breads baked are transported to the grocery stores, and these sell the baked breads to the consumers. So we've got two different ways to analyze how products are going to be produced and end up as finished goods at the customers. Now on top we can see the supply chain. From the suppliers, the products move to the manufacturers, the warehouses, the stores, and the customers. The arrows in between show to us the transportation of these products. So the suppliers via shipping are going to transport the products to the manufacturers, and these transport the products again to the warehouses by truck, and then perhaps maybe they use airplanes as well, and finally the products move to stores and maybe use DHL to get the products to the customers. So the difference is the red dotted area is the supply chain, the yellow dotted area is the logistics part, and logistics management is planning, organizing, directing and controlling the whole transport from A to B. So supply chain managers focuses on re-engineering the process of supplying the products to other companies. So it's improving the process to get better results. It's also looking at outsourcing. Maybe, globally speaking, other companies are able to produce the same raw material at a lower price. Next to analyzing the value chain and the supply chain, we can have a look at quality management. Total quality management means everyone's in, so all stakeholders. Quality stands for improving service to customers or improving products, and this improvement part is done with the help of the circle of Deming: planning, organizing, directing and control. for managers, or in short, plan, do, check and act. Now, management, of course, includes all data and all knowledge to improve a better result for the customers. So we've got several tools for quality management. Let's have a look at them. First one is a competitive product analysis. A competitive product analysis is like, in this case, an analysis of the producer of shoes. And this producer, or Crocs, compares the shoes with other competitors on several items: the model, the color, price, size, and the strong points of the competitors, and finally the value proposition. And so by comparing, the company can learn and can change and improve. Next to the product analysis, the company can analyze the process. Let's have a look at the forklift and the move of products with a forklift. It starts the process with picking up a load from a shipping dock. Then the forklift moves these products to storage racks, and the question is at that time, and this is the decision that has to be made: is the load a fast moving product? Yes, then it should be placed on the lower shelf. Is it not a fast moving product? Then it could be placed on a higher top level shelf, because then customers have to do a little bit more work to get the product. So in analyzing the process, we know what to do, where to place the products. It's also part of a value analysis. So all activities are evaluated on the value they add for customers. Next to this, we have the ISO certification series. ISO 9001 is a brand mark in which it shows that you as a company follow strict procedures in testing products, training workers, and keeping track with maybe defects, etc., and how to fix it. The green brand ISO certification series shows the importance of environmental performance by the company, so you as a customer know how much effort they make. Finally, the quality improvement teams. In Japan, was this concept created. Quality circles, groups of people from different functions and knowledge and skills were grouped together in a specific area to have a look at common operational problems. So they had to solve and analyze, define and analyze and solve the problems. The sixth tool for quality management is business process re-engineering. It's deciding upon the critical success factors of the company towards a better product result. What is critical, what's not. So fundamental is rethinking and radical design of the business process and making radical improvements by improving costs, lowering costs, improving quality, higher quality, improving service, better service, and improving speed. So, operations management is important in a business organization because it helps effectively manage, control, and supervise goods and services. And finally, people.